To order the Affordable Housing Committee. It is Monday, March 2nd at 5:30, and we do have one bill before us, and since we have a quorum and the sponsor is here, we'll go ahead and get that order of business taken care of. Councilmember Toombs, if you want to tell us about your bill, we'll consider that and vote on it. It is, I'll read the caption. BL 2021-49 sponsors Toombs, Taylor, and others. Amends the Metro Code of Laws to require a landlord to provide notice prior to an increase in rent. And there, I see that there are proposed amendments. So we want to talk about the amendment.
Okay. The wrong thing. All right. Here we go. All right. So the amendment comes about from having some discussion with the realtors, not realtors, the apartment association. There were some concerns about the language, and I'm looking for where my amendment is. Hold on.
I have a copy of it here.
Here we go. Where is it? Here we go. I have it. So basically, it's generally given requiring at least 90 days notice before there's a rental increase, and the rental increase can't go into effect until at the conclusion of the lease. It exempts leases that already have like a 60-day or more requirement already in the language. Has an effective date of July 1st, and this just comes about from hearing a lot of personal accounts from constituents that had very short notice of a rental increase. Oftentimes their rents were doubled. And so this is an attempt to give folks a chance to either decide if they can afford the rental increase, find somewhere else to live, relocate children, put in different schools, all the things that go with being confronted with a significant increase in your monthly housing costs.
Great. And I see we have another amendment that will be similar to that, but I guess we'll go ahead and move this amendment and talk about it. So is there a motion for the amendment?
So moved.
Second. Moved and seconded. Any further discussion on Amendment 1? Okay, all those in favor of Amendment 1, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Amendment 1 is recommended. There is an Amendment 2. I don't have the sponsor here, and I think it just changes the date from July to April. And I don't know anything about it. And we don't have to vote on all amendments. I mean, we can still.
I think he may have done that before he saw mine.
Maybe so. And he can move that or not move that tomorrow. Okay. So maybe you just want to do that. So with that, I think we will leave that amendment and move on to the bill if you want to move your bill as amended.
Move approval as amended.
Okay. For a second?
Second.
All right. Any discussion on the bill as amended? We don't usually entertain questions, but we're an intimate group, so please introduce yourself.
I'm Jim Hodge.
Great.
I live at 544 Battle Road, Cane Ridge, District 31. John Rutherford,
Glad you're here.
councilman. I sat where you sat for 5 years when I lived in District 30. So I understand the situations a little bit. I'm a realtor. I serve on the Government Affairs Committee both at our local level here in Nashville and the state level. I also serve as the treasurer for the Legislative Action Committee for the Community Association Institute. But the reason I'm here is because I'm Government Affairs Chair for the National Association of Residential Property Managers, our Nashville chapter. We have 88 members, about 5,000 doors among us. I'm a small businessman. My little real estate company's in South Nashville. We've got 200 rentals that we manage, 70 homeowner associations, and when we're not doing that, we sell a little more. Some of the problems I have with this bill is it's not in sync with the Tennessee Landlord and Tenant Act in several areas. It's not in sync with case law as the landlord and tenant law has been enacted. In my situation, the way I practice, I'm talking to my tenants in month 6 to month 8 of a 1-year lease. We're doing a walkthrough, trying to see, are they taking care of the place? If they are, do we want to extend the lease? Do we want to do a renewal? Do we need to do a new lease because there's been a change at the state level? Sometimes we have to do that because Number one, on the requirement to notify tenants that we don't insure their personal property had to be in a certain type in boldface. We couldn't do a renewal. We had to do new leases for everybody. Sometimes tenants have created a problem. Most of them are able to correct it. One recently, all we needed to do was for the gentleman to get a second trash card because he was getting codes violations, which were coming to the owner or to me as their rep. Now, I say all that to say that when I see this, I see it's like you're creating two classes. Why do some get 60 days and some get 90 days? That's confusing.
But I don't see how that's inconsistent with any statute. I mean, I think we put in the...
Give you one point. 6628-201 Section B. In the absence of a lease agreement, the tenant shall pay the reasonable value for the use and occupancy of the dwelling unit. The lease expires and there's no rollover provision. Then under state law, I can charge reasonable value. But you're saying I've got to do 90 days notice before I can charge reasonable value in that specific situation. The way the courts have interpreted notice under this goes to 6628-512, where it talks about a notice of termination. 10 days if it's a week-to-week rental agreement. 30 days if it's a month-to-month or at the end of the tenancy. The way, it's not 30 calendar days, though. It's the end of the next payment period.
Do we need to specify that this is for annual contracts?
So a month-to-month lease would be month-to-month. Typically, in a month-to-month lease, it says any party can terminate with 30 days notice. So this would impact that. The Landlord-Tenant Act doesn't speak to rental increases at all, notice for rental increases.
That's just termination.
Right. And so that was the point in meeting with the apartment association and having their attorneys look through it and having their members look over it to make sure there wasn't anything that would trip people up. The reason that it has the 60 days is that most of your large apartment or corporate landlords already have some type of rental increase notice in their leases.
And it's spelled out.
Right, and it's spelled out. So if you already have that in your lease agreement, this doesn't impact you. We stick with that as long as you're given at least a 60-day notice.
We're talking about apartment leases. I'm talking about what we call scattered site. I don't manage apartments. I manage single-family homes, duplexes, a couple of triplexes, individual condo units. That makes up my rental portfolio. They are not apartment houses.
And this applies both to apartment and...
It would apply to any rental unit.
Yeah. So keep going.
And that's where the issue comes in with your private landlords who just have a duplex or a triplex. Those are the ones that are kicking people out. Well, not kicking them out, but raising rent so high that they are effectively kicked out with very short notice.
And they have the option of putting in a 60-day or writing another policy themselves if they choose to.
You could put it in
We
your...
appreciate your input. We typically don't have debate with people who are not on the committee, so I think with that, we'll open the debate up to other committee members and then continue our vote. So other comments from the committee?
I would just like to thank you all for your work on this bill. I think it's a great idea. I think the time frame is very reasonable, and the date certain of when it goes into effect and when new leases will require that. It seems like we've kind of accommodated a lot of different stakeholders, and was this initially proposed as 90 days? Was that the case? Yeah. So I have a feeling like we've gotten to a good place here with working with the realtor and landlord stakeholders as well. So I support it.
Thank you. And we will get a report from our legal counsel with if there's anything we're doing that they interpret as not legal, they will apprise us of that before our vote on Thursday as a council. Other comments? We're ready to vote. All those in favor of the bill as amended?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, bill is recommended. We will take it up in council, and we hope you'll communicate with other council members, and appreciate you being here. But we do have other business.
I would invite the sponsor to come to one of our board meetings. We meet the second Tuesday of each month, or one of our chapter meetings the third Tuesday of each month. and get a different perspective than what the apartments say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Great, thank you for that. 6, okay. That is recommended. That completes our business on bills. And with that, I would like to invite Hannah Davis up to, or from there, to tell us, well, I'll start if you want me to, but I'll let you kind of lay out the framework, and then I'll jump in where you want me to.
Great.
Talk about the HIP, which is the Housing Incentive Pilot Program, which was created in 2017, I think is when it finally happened, and was set to sunset at the end of 2019, and Councilmember O'Connell and Sledge and Mendez and Nancy Van Reese and I sponsored a resolution just to extend it another 3 months so that we could have some time to look at data and make a decision on whether we wanted to extend it for a longer period of time or not. So I will turn it over to you. I will give more background if you would like for me to.
Okay.
And then I'll talk as much as you'll let me. But
Great. So I'm Hannah Davis. I think I've had the pleasure to meet all of you. The Housing Incentive Pilot Program, and the reason that Councilor Allen would speak to it is because I was not here during its inception. So if you have questions about sort of how it came to be or some of those initial discussions, she would be the person to ask about those. But in terms of implementation, how it works is that the city enters into contracts with properties that have said we want to support affordable housing, we want to have people live here. There's a negotiation about how many of the units would be affordable, and when the legislation sunset, that was going to end the ability to enter into new contracts. As long as there is grant money in the budget, the contracts could continue to be fulfilled. So right now we have, I think Councilor Hauser wants to join by phone.
oh, sure.
This is mine.
Sorry, this is
No problem.
This is Ms. Hauser.
My phone is totally dead. Can someone?
Mine's very nearly dead.
Does anyone have a working phone that can?
Mine's almost dead too. It doesn't work in this too hard.
I got 78%.
Mine is dead too, but I have a backup battery.
No, here, I have her number.
Quante has.
Just to put her on
Let's put her on speakerphone.
She wants to hear it. She's
I called her.
Hello, you
Okay.
have reached Gloria's voicemail.
they're calling you right now. So
Hey.
okay.
Yes, I'm in the meeting.
Okay.
Okay.
Let's try your
I think
voicemail
she-
to get somebody. So please, everyone can hear what's going on.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
The entertainment.
Oh, she called me. You're on speaker.
Just, but she'll hear
Sorry,
better
I just forgot.
if Hannah's holding it.
Okay, we can pass Gloria around.
We'll pass it. All right, Gloria, we're glad you're here.
Hi, Council Lady Hauser. We were just talking about the Housing Incentive Pilot Program. So, as I was saying, when the bill sunset, the language of the bill was that we couldn't enter into new contracts with new properties. As long as there's money in the budget, we could continue to fulfill the grant amounts. So right now, basically, we're at a little bit of a standstill to know if we should add more developers or not. For the numbers perspective, the program started at $2 million, and it was a little bit of a chicken or the egg from what I've understood, was that in order for the grants to be fulfilled, it required money every year in the operating budget. So basically, you're entering into a negotiation and we're good for it this year, but you don't really know whether all the legal work that you put in as a property owner on the front end is going to be something that, provides stable tenants for 5 years, 1 year. So that was some of the feedback I heard from the property managers that said, we just really weren't sure how long this program would be around. So that in turn, when you examined the budget, it didn't show, much of that $2 million being used. So then, especially in lean times, that money got cut, which again then showcased to the developers that this wasn't a priority. So sort of this back and forth. So in FY21, there's $300,000 allocated for the Housing Incentive Pilot Program. This includes a administration fee. Freeman Webb oversees all of the compliance and monitoring. So they do the income verification, they bill Metro, they make sure that property managers get paid, they deal with any incidents. So they've been a great partner. And so right now, of the $300,000, we have entered into 3 contracts with property owners. And how it works is that each contract negotiated a max. So they said, here's how much you can fulfill, sort of go use that with your tenants. And so out of the 300, about 250 is allocated in grant contracts, and then 170 of that has been used. So because, and stick with me because we'll get to the numbers for a second, probably not as well as some of the accountants in the room, but the bill was written so that a person would income qualify, but then only pay 30% of their income. So, it's not a set amount for each of us in this room. So when you have, for example, a total cap of $12,000, that could go for 4 people, or it could go for 10 people based on the incomes of the people living there. So I think, Council Lady Allen and I have been going back and forth on this. I've mostly been involved in managing, the invoices and trying to sort of get a sense of what kind of impact this is having. And trying to understand the challenges that the developers or the property managers have had. I know that it's been really impactful for the people who are utilizing it, and especially I think in a time when we don't have a lot of other tools at Metro, it becomes really essential. But I think one other challenge as I've examined it is that there wasn't a cap set on the rent. So the couple properties that we have, a couple of them are in the Gulch, so, that's a higher property or higher rent that Metro's subsidizing. Obviously, that's really valuable in some ways because we want people to be able to live in the Gulch of all income levels, to be able to work and support the industries that are in that area. The challenge then is from a fiscal stewardship standpoint, then, you're expending money that perhaps, if those units were a mile out of downtown, we could support more units for the same price. So those are some of the considerations I've had just in sort of examining and overseeing the program.
And it currently is serving 17, 13, it's 25
Yes,
people?
6. Let me do the count. I had rooms, but you're right, I should have had individuals.
And full disclosure, some of them are in my district, and I'm excited to have had it be there. It's right on the West End bus line, so people can access good jobs downtown that probably otherwise wouldn't be living right there on West End Avenue.
Yes, 26 individuals, and you're exactly right. And I think when we talk about people sort of having a mixed income accessible in Nashville, without a program like this, it really wouldn't be possible.
So if nothing else, it has been a great pilot for demonstrating that the mixed-use model can function, that people with vastly different incomes can live in the same building and benefit from being there together. But that being said, we are at a crossroads right here of do we let it sort of peter out while we introduce other tools, or do we keep this one going for another set period of time as we bring other tools online? My vision of our solution to affordable housing is a grid of solving the 30, 60, 90% of AMI niches, and MDHA has a role to play, and private developers have a role to play, and the nonprofits have a role to play, and none of them will provide all of those 31,000 units that we need, but if we can get one that'll do 25, then another that'll do 200 or 300 or whatever, then we're going to chip away at it. And I think each of us is working on our little piece of how we can create those other tools.
Do we have other tools on deck right now?
So we created the Move to the Front of the Line, which hopefully will just enable the nonprofits to get some of their stuff on faster.
Which I've seen really wide adoption of. So whoever's spreading the word on that,
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Okay, good. So that one's working. Also, Hannah and I have been talking about a pilot tax abatement, which we'll get to next, that would sort of be kind of the reverse version of this, as opposed to providing a rebate for the rent at the end of the year. It would be a tax abatement that you just never have to pay some portion of your property taxes, which lowers your operating cost, which enables you to charge less rent to income qualified tenants. So that may have a less direct impact on the budget. So that is something that will take us a while to get in place. I mean, I sort of see these two as eventually one replacing the other, but my personal wish is to keep this in place and perhaps a little bit more expansion for a couple more years while we get the pilot up and running. That's kind of, I mean, there are those who would argue that, you can do more with this money in something else, but that's always going to be true. There are a lot of different tools. Only one of them will be the best, but that doesn't, but we know we need more than one. So I sort of lean toward continuing it. But I know I've worked really hard to make it happen, so I may not be totally objective. So I want to hear from other people.
I think we always need to have something in place
Yeah.
to help. Whatever it is, we always have to have something.
Yeah, and I mean, to me, this is something that complements the Barnes Fund. It deals with a different, it's a different, I think, sector. It's not as home ownership focused as much of the Barnes Fund is, and I think it's...
The accessibility to downtown.
And the accessibility to downtown is not going to happen as Barnes. So, yeah, I feel like it's a reasonable tool.
What's the
And,
projected number of additional individuals we could have online with this?
I mean,
So there's $80,000 of additional cap that the current properties, if we didn't sign anyone else on, and it averages about 8,000 to 10,000 per individual, which, when I ran the Barnes numbers, is sort of the same as what Barnes gets you if you look at per individual per year. So that, depending on their income, that extra 80,000 could get us between 8 and 12 new participants.
so 8 to 12, yeah. And I've got another builder.
In addition to the 26.
Right. Yeah.
Right. I've got another builder in my area who says he's interested. So,
Yes.
I know there's at least one that would.
I've definitely seen an uptick of people who are interested, so I think if the council chose to expand the program with additional funding.
I do too. Yeah,
Okay, good.
in my district. Yeah.
Great.
And I think there's interesting ways you could target it towards teachers or certain populations that the city's really invested in. You could do special marketing. Obviously, fair housing laws preclude from, certain preferences, but obviously the people who know about it will most likely be the ones to, go
Yeah.
and approach the property.
And I think it is, I mean, because the funds are limited, it has not in general been, on the front page of the Tennessean. It's been going to the teachers union, for example, and saying, will you let your folks know this is available? So I think that can drive it towards the groups that we need. So Colby, we're talking about the extension of the HIP for some period of time. It will expire at the end of March if we don't have a resolution at the next council meeting to re-up it. And Hannah, did I hear you say that there is money in FY21 budget, or is that?
No, sorry, I got my budget years mixed up.
shoot,
I can't speak to FY21. FY20,
This
we have
year.
300,000. Yeah.
Okay. But if we are going to do it as a committee, we will need to begin to advocate for funding for it in next year's budget and cross our fingers, because we can't be absolutely sure that it will continue to be funded. And that again is why we're going to talk about this pilot in just a second. Is that something that would be slightly less dependent on budget from year to year. So with that being said, I'm not saying that there aren't better tools that could come down the pipeline, just that I think this is a good one to hang on to for some amount of time, and I would be open to suggestions on if we make that another 3 years, another 5 years. I mean, I think doing it 1 year at a time is very hard on both the landlords and the tenants. So, I mean, something that is more in line with kind of how long people make decisions to move or stay in an apartment would be appropriate. And I don't know if Gloria can hear me way the heck over there now. Come to the table, Gloria. Okay, there we go. So I would entertain thoughts on, number one, do we want to extend it? I kind of sense general consensus, but that's worth talking about. And number two, for how long, when would we set the next sunset date?
So it's going to sunset on March 31st, is what you're saying?
Of 2020.
Just our ability to add new contracts.
Oh,
The
I see.
existing contracts will continue to be paid out as long as there's
As long
money.
as there is money.
So the challenge would be you could extend the ability to bring on new contracts for 5 years, and if it's cut in the budget, July 1, we stop making payments. So de facto, the contracts are
Right,
canceled.
so this is a two-part piece. But if we don't extend it, we know it's over.
Right. So I think it's the question about sunset or not, but then in terms of budget, do you want to advocate for, same increase, decrease? Which of course I can provide data based on your follow-up questions about.
Yeah, and I think it is appropriate to have a cap in there, to say this is not open-ended, it will have a sunset date and there will be a cap of, we could stick with, well, you can help me out with what that cap ought to be. So first question is sunset date.
I think in terms of terms, right? So in essence, that if council administration wanted to attempt to whether, extend, maybe revamp, whatever it might be, that we would look at extending it for, I guess in this case, it maybe like 3.5, but to be clean, to say 3, to say we've got 3 years to really make a dent in this. And I think it gives us an opportunity to then have that conversation about what would HIP 2.0 look like.
Right, as we're still on it. Okay, that's an excellent. So that would are we talking about the summer of 2023?
Well, I guess what we would really want it to do, we want to think about in terms of budget, I guess, at that point, right?
Right. So let's make it back in March, which is.
Yeah, and then we could, then, I guess this council in March of 23 could talk through getting what we do worked,
Right.
and then put in for the FY 24 budget. Yeah.
Gotcha. So sunset March 31? Or is that too late from a budget standpoint? Well, at that point, we will know it's coming and we'll be making decisions and either let it sunset or not. So does March 31, 2023 sound good? Okay. And then in terms of cap, help us think this through. Does that $250 million cap?
250,000.
250, sorry, I wish. 250,000.
I was going to say, that's the curveball.
Sorry, $250,000 cap, does that allow for some growth, no growth?
That would be a maintain.
That would be a maintain.
Because when we talked about this last time, we said all current dollars are spoken for. Is that?
The grant contracts we made with the properties are spoken for. We can't bring on any additional right now. Within those contracts, they have some room to add a few tenants.
But the total realized value of those contracts equals the amount we have budgeted. Is that what you're saying? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of what's already there. So if we wanted to add anything, it would need to be something bigger than 250,000.
Well, 300.
Okay.
But yeah, and I can do the breakdown, but there's $30,000 of administration fee to Freeman Webb, which I think could be renegotiated because I believe that was the number when it was going to be $22 million worth of units.
Oh, right.
And then 278, I believe, is where we are for grant contracts.
Gotcha.
But yeah, in
That's
generalities.
Added up over that.
Y'all may have discussed this. It sounds like, Hannah, you're going to be providing the reporting on this unit because we did this piecemeal sort of ordinance by ordinance on contracts.
Right.
Is there
Yes.
somewhere where that lives right now that's publicly accessible?
It's not publicly accessible, and I have the data for you right now. It has the tenants' names, and which I know is all public information. So I have that readily available and can share it with you if you would like to see sort of the profiles. So
Yeah.
that would be up to the chair. And
Like you can share right now?
I can share it right now, hot off the presses. Of course, I want to protect their privacy, but again, it's part of the Metro program that is public.
Gotcha.
So it skews towards singles, and I don't know enough about the properties to know whether that's representative of the property as a whole or what has been the cause for that.
Right. Gotcha. So that's what's happening right now. Yeah, I think there's exactly 1 2-bedroom.
Sherry, you're familiar with a couple of these properties. How many of those, for Fairfax and Belcourt, what do those units represent as a percentage of the total?
So Fairfax is a 21 apartment complex, so that's 4 out of 21. That's, 25%.
Yeah, that's a nice distribution.
Yeah. ECG Belcourt is much larger. Interestingly, the rest of those are now short-term rental, which was not how I thought that was going to play out. But at least one person is living there. And then Pine Street Flats I'm not familiar with.
Pine Street's in the Gulch,
And that's in the Gulch, yeah.
and it's fairly large, but I don't know what the.
Yeah. But the conversation that I had with the folks who were managing were that they felt like, number one, that it was working for the demographic that we were hoping to provide opportunity to, and number two, it was providing terrific tenant stability for the owners. I mean, the landlords have realized this is great because you will never have an opening in these rooms. So if nothing else, we'll be a victim of our own success if you don't have a cap. So that's certainly why I want to do that. And as we talk about the pilot program, that's the same discussion we'll have with that, I think. So, Zulfat, what we're talking about is we think the HIP program, while not perfect, is a good tool, and until we have all the other tools in place, we think it's worthwhile to extend the possibility of it. We would need to add additional finance to it to enable them to take on other projects. And the question is, we're currently at 300 and what did you say, 40,000?
278.
278,000 is the okay. Do we want to, bump that up to 350,000? This will all be subject to how the budget works out. So we may get zero. But
So, Madam Chair,
yes, ma'am.
if I may ask, so the owners still get the full value, and so it's discounted with the grant, and so the benefit is for the tenants, pretty much.
That is correct.
Yes, it ensures that they're not cost burdened. So they pay 30% of their income, and we pay the difference.
So we pay 70%.
So in the discussion we had,
They pay 30% of their income, which for some of them could be, 80% of the market rate. It might be 50% of the market rate, and then we pay the difference. So it calculates based on their income verification.
They pay 30% of their income, and then we pay the difference between that 30% and the actual rent.
And the actual
correct?
market rent.
it was being charged to other
That
tenants.
everybody else is paying.
And then, the rest of the folks, and they're all living in there together. So I can't remember when you had to step out, but, we acknowledge that this may not be the best bang for the buck.
Hey, it's better than nothing.
But it's a tool that we have. It is accomplishing what we want it to, and while we're figuring out what the other tools are, this is a very tiny part of the Metro budget, so.
Yeah, I really appreciate getting to understand this a little bit better. I mean, my only hesitation is just scaling this at all would be just incredibly expensive.
It will not scale. We know that. So of the 31,000 units that we're trying to provide, this will probably never be more than 50. Is it worth it to us just to provide these 50 while we figure out something else that will scale bigger? That's the question.
Yeah, one thing I think we've discussed, and maybe I think this is why 3 years would provide the space to have these discussions is, one thing that we keep missing, we get the total sort of vacancy rate, right? Like the apartment association will put out, this is what the vacancy rate is, or the chamber will put out what the vacancy rate is. But we only know anecdotally that there is capacity in some of these buildings, but we don't know where they are, and we don't know what they are. And if we were able to pinpoint where those places were, and I used to get anecdotal evidence from people who lived or worked in some of these buildings recently where vacancy rates way higher than what's being reported. Because if you report too high of a vacancy, then your property is unattractive, right? And it just sort of becomes a self-perpetuating.
And you can lower the rent.
Right, exactly. And I think there's an opportunity here to go to some of those property holders and say, if you are straight with us on your vacancy rate, then there is a program that could help fill where you're getting $0 to that portion. Because I think what's going to happen otherwise is what happened at Belcourt is they're going to get filled with STRs instead.
Yeah, they can, yeah.
Right, because they're going to go out and seek something for a unit that's getting nothing right now.
Right.
which they can't do.
And I think the other question that comes to mind is that how are these property owners making it available or letting people know that it's available? Are they determining the people that can use it? Is it, because as we keep talking about equity all the time, how do we make sure that it's something that it's open to, you know what I mean?
Yes.
So that's
a really
that's a
important
concern
issue.
for me.
Yeah.
Right, because they have fair housing laws that protect them from discriminating, but I would want to make sure that even the way it's marketed and the people who are exposed and really encouraged, that there is prioritization of some of, like we were talking about teachers or other populations where we want to say, we want to really encourage you to go populations that are more representative of our city.
So maybe we can, as part of the reporting requirements, rather than just income, we may want to know the composition of the tenants. What is their race? What is their occupation? What are some information that we can look at to see that, this is really across board. And I think that's a requirement that we can put in there because we want to make sure that whatever benefit we're giving out, giving it equitably.
Anecdotally, I can say from the conversation that I had with Freeman Webb, who is currently managing it, they did say that it was exactly who we're targeting. That was teachers, it was servers, and that they were the limited marketing that they needed to do because it sells pretty easily, was through organizations like MNEA and other places where they knew they would get that group. But I think adding it as a formal
Reporting.
reporting column, I think would be useful, and Hannah and I can work on that. So, Councilmember Sepulveda, we were talking about the extension of the HIP, which is the Housing Incentive Pilot Program that we instituted in 2017 that officially sunsets at the end of this month, unless we pass another resolution at the next council meeting. So she got that. I'll give you this. So we actually bought an extra 3 months. It sunset officially December 31. We bought through March 31 just to have time to get data and have this discussion as we're having now, and now we're trying to decide.
So just again, I think this was covered, but if we were to take no action, what would happen to these people who are utilizing the program currently?
No action on the legislation only determines our ability to enter into new contracts.
Okay, thank you.
The budget determines the continuation of these existing contracts.
So we could just spend our effort fighting to get these people or these positions
To stay. Yeah.
funded.
Yeah.
Or we can say we want this to grow a little bit, but we know it doesn't need to grow a whole lot. Or we can say this is good. I will say 2 of them in my district and the other one's in the Gulch. And Brandon's got somebody interested in District 21, which is an area where that would be beneficial. So
Good, yeah. So
Right,
it's not
there's definitely
concentrated.
not going to be barns being built in those areas.
yeah, in those areas, that is true. And perhaps we add some more language in the resolution extending it about some geographic diversity or something like that.
Yeah.
The current properties, where are they at?
So this is on Fairfax, this one's in Hillsborough Village, and that one's at Pine Street Flats in the Gulch. So we just have those 3 properties right
And
now.
to give, this is not a HIP project, but to give an idea, I got a report a couple weeks ago. So everybody's familiar with 12th and Wedgwood, right?
Yeah.
So that project ended up, I think, at 155 total units. The way the developer was able to make the financing work, they actually got closer to like 70% of those units being affordable. So they're or workforce, right? So these household incomes right here, basically, 110 full with a waiting list, done. And the rest of those units are going to be full next month. So when we talk about demand for this household income, we know this intrinsically, but like in real world, those 110 units filled, they didn't market those until basically October of last year.
Could you speak just a little to how the financing worked for them to be able to achieve that?
They had, so the way that worked, that was a not all caps pilot, little pilot. That was a pilot project that we did where Metro had unused vacant land, and we entered into an agreement with a private developer to do a long-term land lease where they build, they manage, they get the tenants, but they do a low-income housing tax credit on it. they were able to obtain the tax credit, so they have a reporting system that verifies the affordability. And what they did, because of the flexibility within LIHTC credits, is instead of all their affordability being at 80, 100, the community asked them to get down to 60% in some of the units. So they went from 60 to 120 AMI, and that's how they were able to do it.
Yeah, you can average out those incomes.
It's a mixed income model. So, and like I say, we'll talk about another kind of pilot in just a minute if we have time. Other thoughts on this one? Extend, grow, let it phase out?
Extend, grow,
Okay.
if possible.
I think Colby's suggestion of 3 years from now is good, and then we can come back and revisit it as we're contemplating the next council. And then in terms of a cap. It is. I mean, currently the cap was $2 million, but it only got 250. So I mean, we can set a cap and know that we don't even get that high, just depending on what the mayor's budget is, or we can set something that's more in line with what we think we'll actually get, which maybe is something more like 500,000.
I would set an aspirational goal because you're most likely going to get less.
Got it?
So yeah.
Well, should we stick with the $2 million that was there?
With the 2 million, yeah.
Okay. Have that $2 million. And what that means is we are obligating Metro to put $2 million into affordable housing, which we think they should. Yeah. We don't want to compete with the Barnes Fund, which we want to get back to at least 10 million. 15 million has been recommended.
This is $2 million annually?
Yes, that is an annual number. Currently, we're spending 278.
Well, yeah, 300's been allocated. We'll see where we are at the end of the year.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, and our argument
$2
is that we
million.
want to put it in different parts of the city.
Right.
We want more participation
And that's
across the city.
Across the
So that's how we're going to get to the 2 million.
Okay, so we will add geographic diversity and try to think of a specific way to spell that out.
Are there areas of town that are already being targeted for this? Is there like a study or something?
It's basically been when a council member can talk a developer into just having the conversation with Hannah, then once they do it, they finally go, heck, yeah.
Okay.
So it's up to council members to make developers aware of it.
Yeah, and they're getting their full money, so.
Right.
Yeah, they're getting.
At the end of the last term, when we had a discussion about it was at some other deadline, quite frankly, there was an acknowledgement basically from the administration at the time that they would have liked to do more, but this program had not been well publicized. So to Chair Member Allen's point, that's exactly what happened. Each of us as members had to take it on as our own priority.
Right. And, I think there's the balancing act of letting enough people know that they can be funded by whatever's available. But I think word's getting out, and it will be easier to market. So, but I will work with Hannah and John Cooper on language to incorporate these other decisions that we've talked about, and have that ready to go for the March 17th council meeting. Okay, any other discussion on HIP? Do we have time to talk briefly, or at least begin the discussion on pilot? Yes.
I'll really quickly, I'll sort of give an overview. Is that
That'd be
right?
great.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think per the conversation we just had, Mayor Cooper, the committee, council, everyone's very focused on affordable housing. And, we always look at what other tools we can import, create, but we're also trying to look at what tools could we just pivot. So one of those is the payment in lieu of tax. So you may have heard talks about pilots that, the convention center receives, or that companies coming in receive. The idea would be to take that tool and turn it towards affordable housing. And so Mayor Cooper's, been very supportive of this, but really Council Lady Allen's leadership on this has been crucial. And we talked with Metro Legal, so they're sort of making sure that it fits in line with state law based on any changes recently. But after that point, once we get the sign off from legal, I'd love to come back and be able to talk more in detail. Obviously wanted to make this my first stop because you're the strongest advocates in the city, and anything for a pilot would have to come through Metro Council. So the I've been researching this since June of last year, talking with other municipalities, studying programs across the country, and then as well talking with developers and saying, what works with how you finance your project. Really, this tool, Barnes works for nonprofits. This tool would be focused on for-profits. Nonprofits would be eligible, but for-profits who can't access, any of the subsidized programs that exist really for nonprofits or only low-income affordable housing development. This would be intended to help support mixed-income housing development and really be throughout the county. 15-year pilot with 10 years at the full rate of the tax abatement, and then it would decrease from year 11 to 15, but the city would get 20 years of affordability from that tax abatement. And looking at ways, it's very similar to HIP in that we would be basically subsidizing the difference between market rate and what's affordable, but instead of Metro taking in tax dollars and paying them out through a cash grant, we would enter into agreement to basically discount that tax bill. The reason that I've really been drawn to it is because it provides a stability for the tenant and, the city to know what value we're getting, but that if a tenant moves in on day one, they could raise their kids there, they could grow their family, keep them in the same school district, and that it would be income controlled for 20 years. So similar to how Barnes properties are, just looking to create an additional tool that harnesses a lot of the development energy we're seeing and people who are saying, what can I do to support affordable housing? I spent a lot of time in the pro formas to understand, okay, are you just saying you need help or do you actually need help? And really seeing the numbers and understanding that it's not tenable, especially if you want to be along a transit line or close to jobs, which, all of us are dedicated to for residents. So that's where my research has led me, Councilor Allen and I have looked at this a lot, meeting about it, and then met with the governing body that we would propose would be the IDB, the Industrial Development Board. Also looked at Health and Ed Board. They were not as interested. IDB, who has previously done job grants and pilots, would also like to focus their efforts on affordable housing, economic equity. So they were really interested in this, and we'll be speaking with them at their meeting on March 12th. But just wanted this to be my first stop. So I would love for you to, think about it, and I, follow up if you want material that I can send you. Love to meet individually, and we can. I guess two of you can't meet at the same time, but I can meet.
If we notice it, we can.
Yeah.
And just get you up to speed. I spent 7 months so far researching this, and so if there's any way I can distill that down to answer some of your questions about. When you think about what would that look like in your district, what would be important for you in order for you to be able to support something?
Is this, and it may not be, it might just be similar. I remember when we were looking at the property taxes relief and what to do, one of the things that came back is that the state does allow us, it's a tool somewhere in there where we can go to the Industrial Development Board where they can actually own the property. Is that what
would
this
have to happen?
Okay. So that was one of the things that came back in some of the research that I had done, and we realized that for me, one of the reasons why I did not push it at the time was because I thought it was going to want to leave the title to the house to the IDB. But we're not talking about individual property owners, we're talking about commercial properties that can then pass those savings to the tenants.
Yep. Yes, and one thing I've been really focused on, I think some of the feedback I've heard from broad public and specific council people is that the pilots there wasn't a sense that they were tied to value that the city was getting, and so any abatement would be tied to the level of affordability. So if someone wants to offer workforce housing, and so it's just going to be 80%, they're going to, thank you, that's important. You're going to receive a less of an abatement. If you're going to go to 50%, you're going to receive more of an abatement, so that, we can come report to the council and say, here's exactly the value that you've received for any lost revenue. And as I've examined this in terms of value, it is hard to estimate again because the number would be different based on what level of affordability they choose to go to. But it would be on par, probably a little more cost-effective than Barnes, but the development would be quicker. And just because Barnes works through a lot of financing and title issues, but the primary reason for this would be in addition to Barnes, that they really access different populations and provide different value, and it's important to have more tools than just Barnes.
Right. All right. And we actually, the sequence of events would be have the IDB meeting and let their members talk about it, and then to have a workshop between the IDB, this committee, and we'll public notice that anybody else who comes, who will be welcome, to provide input on, again, specifically spelling out what our goal with this is, and settling on a cap, because I think we have to have that, and being specific in what the objective and mission of this is, how it fits into the overall grid of filling in those holes. Having that policy in place before we actually pass the bill. So that'll kind of be the next step on that.
Right, and nothing, we could create it so nothing comes on to online until fiscal year 22. Now we've got my fiscal years planned. So that would be up to the council. If you say, we really need the next fiscal budget year to just sort of get our feet underneath us, we want to begin entering into agreements, but they wouldn't, for nothing that would come online before 22, that would be an option. So if anyone's concerned about, not knowing where we'll settle out in the next budget year.
Yeah, because this will not take away from any revenue we are currently receiving,
Right,
but it will decrease revenue from future apartments based on the subsidies. So,
Could you send me some information?
Absolutely.
Definitely to distill it down so my little...
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can send it to
That'd be great.
everyone if you want.
If you would,
Yeah.
please.
Yeah, just have some write-ups on, it's a new way of looking at the pilot. There's been one done in Hawaii, one done in Chicago. But as I've talked to municipalities and advisors across the country, they said, sort of everyone's looking at this now, just because jobs are not the issue as much, bless you, in urban environments as much as housing is. So.
And the for-profit guys have been asking for this for years. So they've said, we'll build this stuff for you if you'll help us out from a tax standpoint. So hopefully we can. Thank you, Hannah. We appreciate that.
Absolutely.
We'll have
So
you
I'll
back for
send
that.
information, and please let me know if you want a meeting.
Before you go, can I ask you a question?
Please.
May I, please?
Yes, you may.
This doesn't have to do with the presentation,
No problem.
but do you know much about federal vouchers?
I don't.
You don't, okay.
I could find out information.
Yeah, if you can let me find out about how they work here, and do we have problem with landlords accepting it? That's the
Yes.
question that I wanted to find
That's
out.
the answer.
Yes, MDHA manages all of our federal vouchers, and I just had a conversation about this, but I am not knowledgeable enough to be of value. I would probably only...
that'd be MDHA.
Matt Wiltshire.
Okay.
Yeah.
And one of Norman Deep.
Yeah, really
Hands-on
Norman, yeah, which I'm sure he would come...
We have a lot more vouchers than we have landlords who will take them, and that's the problem.
Memphis has income source protection.
Yeah.
That's on the books.
Yeah, I
So
think
it did
that
get
was what I
preempted.
was looking at. That's where that came
Years
into
ago,
me.
too.
That was something I was looking at. And so, but the question to the council at the time was like, okay, do we need to do something about it? But we need to know if we have a problem first before we start looking into
Exactly.
something we want to address. So,
When was it, Sean?
It was years ago when they did their whole
Before
housing
2010?
non-discrimination bill. I don't remember. It was like 10 or 12, I think.
Because I saw that Atlanta just passed one, too, and I thought, okay, if Georgia
and
lets them have one,
what is that other
Tennessee
place? The lady on the
can.
call with me? Was it Minnesota? I can't remember. Somebody
yeah.
else did something. So that's where the question came.
But I can connect you, either you directly with Norman Deep at MDHA, or we could see if you would want to come and sort of give the presentation about vouchers, because that's something I hear from constituents about a lot, is an experience
I
navigating
think the
that.
council office is reaching out to them, and,
Okay.
and then we'll see, and then I'll talk to them.
Very good. Okay, that's great. All right, I have 3 more items real quick, and then we will adjourn.
Thank you, everybody.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. While we have some Barnes experts here, February 28th has come and gone, and so in theory, we sort of know how much tax we were supposed to get this year, except for the folks who were paying late. I think we had set that as sort of a deadline to say maybe after that you will know whether you can unimpound the Barnes funds. Do you have anything you can tell us,
When I met with the mayor, he said that it wouldn't be until the new fiscal year. But
July.
I think there's certainly, we would appreciate, and I know that the two that are waiting would appreciate someone inquiring on that.
Okay.
Kind of just keeping the,
Heat to the fire.
yeah,
Heat to the fire.
slight pressure.
So I'd be willing to write a letter or at least an email to the finance director and ask if there's any progress on that, if I have the blessing of the board for that one. Okay, will do. Councilmember Taylor has a proposed bill that is similar to Councilmember Toombs. You want to just tell about that?
Yeah, so it's an intent to sell bill. So for property owners with tenants, that they would have to give a minimum of 90 days written notice to their tenants with an intent to sell their property before closing. So 90 days before closing is what we have proposed at the moment. And very similar to Councilmember Toombs, this is just a form of protection for individuals that live in the city, and to just kind of have some awareness of what is going on in their place of residence. So if it's for sale, if it's not for sale, if there's an intent to sell, it gives them some opportunities to prepare if they need to move or not.
Gotcha. Is there a consequence if they don't?
So I'm still working through this at the moment. At the moment, there's no consequence if they don't. So.
Yeah, and the one other question I would ask
And I'm
is...
trying to work with the state as well, some state representatives to make sure that there's no preemption.
Good idea. That's always something.
Before I introduce.
Would there be any value in combining this with what probably should be a separate bill? The nonprofit builders, particularly Urban Housing Solutions, had asked for a bill from this group, which I think we should put on our list, to enable them to have first rights of refusal, but I think that's specifically on housing that's deemed affordable. So that's probably a totally separate bill.
Yeah, this would be totally separate.
Okay, all right, well, we'll talk about that one later.
Did you ask the council office to see if they recommended anything as a consequence, or are we able to do anything?
Well, I mean, you're technically, as a landlord in Davidson County, you're supposed to have a license for that, right?
You should.
Revoking a license?
Yeah, I mean, it's just a $10 permit. I mean,
Yeah, it's not a
you're just supposed to be
How about a fine?
registered.
But they're selling, yeah.
fine.
I guess I was thinking of then that you have to keep letting them stay or something. I mean, whatever, something that helps the tenant. I mean,
Or the
the
new owner can't raise the rent because you didn't give them.
That's a good one.
Yeah. Oh, for the new owner?
You can't raise the rent.
Well,
You're making them out though, yeah.
That would be different because then we're working with two
Well,
owners.
yeah. So I just asked if.
No, and this
No, that would be Quante.
Yeah.
That is in raising the rent. This is actually selling
selling the property.
evicting them or asking them to leave.
And for instance, if it's similar to the gentleman that spoke earlier, individuals that own properties, not apartment complexes per se, but individuals that own properties, one house or a triplex or duplex or something of that nature, if their property is for sale, a lot of times the tenants do not know that the property is for sale, and then maybe it will kind of float into the bill Councilmember Toombs has presented. But this is more or less for protection of individuals. So if the law isn't followed, they have some protection on the back end.
Right.
I guess what I'm wondering is, would it be, I mean, are we just looking for 90 days eviction notice here?
Similar. I mean, I get what you're saying.
Because, I feel like, if somebody, let's say their partner falls ill and they need to sell a property quickly to to, pay for treatment or something.
Right.
I mean, I can imagine scenarios where people need to move a property
Need to move quickly, yeah.
But then, it's not necessary that those folks that are living there and currently, providing a source of income as renters to the property owner, it's not necessary that they would have to be immediately, that seems like more where the 90 days might come in.
Right.
Does that make sense?
And I think that if you're thinking about, if you're thinking about selling a property, it doesn't, well, with investors it's a different thing though. But without investors, it doesn't mean that you have a quick turnaround. People have to get the money and all of that. It's just that all of that is happening without the actual person living in the building knowing that there's a process that is going on.
Yeah. And it's again, it's to protect the individuals that are renting, that are the residents of the property and tenants of the property. And it's not an intent to, because property may not be for sale at the moment, but before closing, I think that's the area. So before you close on the property, we ask you to give a notice to the tenants that are in the property. Because sometimes property will change hands with tenants or residents that are there without them knowing until later down the road.
Gotcha, good. So this is going to be introduced.
I have an interest.
You're still working, okay.
Yeah, some things I want to work on.
Okay, so if we have thoughts on that, that's...
But I would ask for each one of you to join me and sign on the bill. I'll send an email to Hannah asking her to invite you all to sign on.
Okay.
If you're interested.
Thank you for your initiative on that.
Thank you.
And then my final thing is just to make folks aware, Tennessee Housing Development Authority, THDA, is having their housing conference next week on Wednesday and Thursday. And it's probably not too late to sign up, and you could probably finagle your way into some kind of, I'm a government official, don't really have to pay your registration, but I can't
We
promise
can
that.
do that?
I don't know, it's worth it if you don't ask. But I am planning on going. I have paid my registration, so just because I wanted to make sure I was there. So it's always like drinking from a fire hose, just in terms of information and learning acronyms you never knew existed, and funding stacks and all that kind of stuff. So I just think the more we educate themselves, are better. So I will take good notes. But if anybody else wants to join me there, just Google THDA Housing Conference and look it up. And it sounds like maybe somebody over there might be there. Good. So Mr. Friskick's one will be there. Anything else that we need to bring before the body? Great. Thank you all for sticking around. I appreciate it. We are adjourned.
Thank you.